Okay, so good morning. We are starting the class today, uh, November the 5th. And today we are going to talk about a topic called the parts of speech in English. Well, maybe you have come across this terminology as parts of speech or grammatical class or word class, whatever. Okay, there are many ways of talking about the same topic. So before we start our discussion, uh, when I started teaching morphosyntax, I came across some videos on YouTube. Unfortunately, I do not have the reference of the channels anymore. It's my fault. I beg your pardon about that. But I downloaded some videos on parts of speech and on sentences and clauses, and I would like to play some videos for you. In fact, one video for you with which our theory has some small point of divergency that we'll deal with later on. It's because a difference in approach. Okay, there is no 100% agreement in syntax about what the word classes are. So some grammarians take one positioning, other grammarians take another. I stick it to one, but there are others. So I would like you to know the other point of view, which is slightly and just slightly different from the one I adopt here. So I will share a video with you. I will share a video with you, and I would like you to take a look at this. It's a very didactical approach to parts of speech, and with the exception of the treatment that the teacher in this video gives to interjections, everything's fine with our theory that we are going to approach today. So I'm going to play it, and then we start our own discussion on what parts of speech are. Okay. Just please let me know if you do not hear the sound, or if it's too high, or if it's too low. Okay. I'll try to share the video with you.
Okay.
So by now you are probably seeing a window with the title Eight Parts of Speech, number one intro. Do you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. How's the audio? Too low? Too high? Do you listen to the audio when she speaks?
Yeah,
No.
but it's too low. Very low.
Too low?
Uh-huh.
Let me see if I can. It's 100%. Again. Don't you listen?
No.
No.
No. Oh gosh. I think I should get out of the classroom and present it. I don't know. Let me try to join this class with my other computer, okay? Just a moment. I think if I enter the class with the other computer, it will work fine as a presenter. Oh, that would be impossible because I do not have the the file here, so I'll have to get a pen drive. Just give me a
Uh,
moment.
Professor, do you have the link?
That's the problem. When I downloaded the video, I think I lost the link. Let me see if I find
Mm.
this. Let me see if I find
Yes.
this. Just a moment. Maybe I can find it at YouTube again. Oh, here I found it. Okay,
Mm. And you can send the link for
I
us
will.
on the chat.
I
Then we
will.
watch on YouTube.
I will. I'll share here because Antonio needs the video too, and then we have the video recorded. But I'll send you the link here as a reference because we should stay here to discuss the different approach that she gets and that I will stick to. So here in the chat, but you don't have to open. I'll play it. Okay. Right. I think now I'll share a Chrome guide. Okay, probably you see this 8 parts of speech. Do you?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Let's see if the audio is better now.
Okay, you ready? Here we go. Lesson 1.
Do you hear better now?
Yes.
Good.
Today we're learning the parts of speech. In the English language, there are 8 parts of speech. The complicated Webster's dictionary definition for parts of speech is one of a group of traditional classifications of words according to their function in context, including the noun, adjective, adverb, conjunction, preposition, verb, interjection, and pronoun. That's a lot to memorize and it's really complicated. Let me make it easier. Parts of speech are every time you open your mouth, every word that comes out of your mouth is one of the 8 parts of speech. Every time a word comes out of your mouth, that word is either a noun, an adjective, an adverb, a conjunction, a preposition, a verb, an interjection, or a pronoun. That's it. It's always one of these. So it's important to know what these 8 are to be able to identify them and also to be able to know their function so that you can correctly write and correctly speak. So today we're just going to work on memorizing the 8 parts of speech and giving you a really simple and mnemonic device to help you remember the 8 parts of speech. When we're memorizing a list, we have done it all the way back to elementary school. You did it when you were memorizing northeast, southwest, like the order that they went. We went like never ate soggy waffles. You know, when you got older, the order of operations in math. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please parentheses, excuse exponents, and you went on and on multiplication. So for the parts of speech, we're also going to create a phrase to help you remember. This phrase, and I'd like you to write it with me, is I'm a, okay, and here are your initials, V, I, P, switch markers, of, the, N, double A, C, P. I'm a VIP of the NAACP. That's your phrase that'll help you remember the initials of the 8 parts of speech, the first letter of the 8 parts of speech. Okay, you all know what a VIP is, very important person. You all are familiar with a VIP backstage pass. And then the NAACP, a lot of you have heard of it, but you don't really know what it stands for. It stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Okay, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. It was started back when the term colored wasn't derogatory yet. It was 1909, and a white lady named Mary Ovington, was outraged by the fact that blacks, even though slavery was over, were not getting the same rights as other Americans. They weren't having the same educational rights, voting rights, social rights. So she created this organization to protect their rights and to make sure that they had the same rights as any American. And today that organization has spread out and expanded to include anybody of color,
Digression.
which for all of you, my students, most of my students are Hispanic or African American. And so for you guys, you are very important to the NAACP. The NAACP makes sure that you have the same educational rights as any other American, regardless of race. So you are all VIPs. You are all very important people to the NAACP. So that will help you personally remember it when we're memorizing the 8 parts of speech. So let's write these initials going vertically down. Take your pen and write VIP, NAACP. Okay? Did I get that? I don't know if my video camera got that. Let me check. Kinda. Not really. So, we'll just write RP really small. Hopefully you can see that, okay? So let's write these in. Just to review, I know it's the first day that you've heard these, and so you may not remember them all off the top of your head, but V stands for, write it in on your paper with me. Verb, I stands for interjection, okay? P stands for pronoun, okay? It also stands for preposition. It doesn't matter what order it goes in, but I'm going to start with pronoun. N, noun. A, adjective. A-D-J, E-C-T, I-V-E. The other A, adverb. C, conjunction. Conjunction. And P, preposition. Preposition. Those are the 8 parts of speech. You will learn them, you will memorize them, it will become easier. But for now, remember, I'm a VIP of the NAACP. VIP, NAACP, stand for verb, interjection, pronoun, noun, adjective, adverb, conjunction, preposition. That should all, just like this, be on page 1 of your notes. Now turn to page 10 of your notes.
Okay, so basically what she's trying to give us is a way to memorize the 8 parts of speech. Okay, that sentence does not make any sense else than making you remember her approach to the 8 parts of speech. So where is the diversity point between her approach and my approach? Is that I approach the parts of speech not as 8, but as 9, okay? There is not a consensus in grammar approach if parts of speech are 8 or 9. And why is so? Because what she calls conjunctions, some grammarians like to split into 2 categories, okay? Uh, like the category of coordinators and the category of subordinators, okay? Coordinators plus subordinators, conjunctions. So if you prefer to memorize from her hint, like I'm a VIP of the NAACP, that's okay. But I have another sentence for you that I created on my own, which is sillier than hers, but which helps you memorize the 9 parts of speech from the approach of splitting the category of conjunctions into coordinators and subordinators. So let's take a look at the slides I prepared for you. Do you see my slides? So basically, when I say parts of speech, what do I mean by parts of speech? Do you see the slides, guys?
Yes.
Do you hear me? Is the audio
Yes.
okay? Good. When I say parts of speech, what are the other technical names we can give for them?
Grammatical classes.
Grammatical classes, word classes, okay, word functions, and so on, okay? So looking here at the slides, the parts of speech, according to our approach here, they are 9, okay? We have 9 primary word classes, or what we call parts of speech. And they are either determinative, okay? Like in the dog barked, the is a determiner, okay? Uh, I've got a sore knee, like a is a determiner, and we need some milk. Why do I call it determinative? Because like in the dog barked, the is determining which dog I'm talking about. It's a specific dog. So it's determining the noun. Okay, dog is a noun determined by the article, the definite article, the. So what she calls articles, okay, what she calls articles, we call with a more grammatical precision, with a more academic approach, a determiner, okay? Articles and determiners are pretty much the same. Every article is a determiner, even when it's an indefinite article, such as a in a sore knee, okay? So here, basically, I have 2 determiners, okay? In the phrase a sore knee, I have knee as a noun. Sore is determining the condition of this knee, and a is determining the words, the noun phrase sore knee. Basically, this a is referring to the noun knee, okay? Do you get it? What is determining? Like a book or the book? What is the change? The degree of specificity. A book, any book. But even being any, a is a determiner. Okay? The is a determiner. That book is also a determiner. It's a demonstrative pronoun. Okay? Which is determining which book I'm talking about. Okay? Can we move?
Okay.
Let's move on to the next category. Then the next one we have is the class or the part of speech called adjective. Okay, and this is kind of easy for you. An adjective is we learn it in basic school. It's a quality of a noun. Okay, it's the way you classify a noun. You attribute characteristics for that. So he is very young. This young refers back to he. Okay, forget about the very for a moment. Okay, we'll be discussing this. Uh, young refers back to he. Sore refers to knee. And in I've got a sore knee. Or forget about this I, it doesn't have much to do here. I think it's a slash. It's a slash. Or it looks easy. Easy refers back to what is easy qualifying here? Easy refers back to
It.
it, okay? So every adjective should refer to either a noun or a pronoun, okay? Adjectives must refer back or must refer because, in fact, here the word me, it's not referring back, it's referring further, a noun or a pronoun. Okay, and then we should know what a noun is. Well, we know that the classical definition of a noun is a word class that names something in the world, either concrete or abstract. Like in the dog barked, dog is a noun. Sue, as a proper name, is a noun as well. And here I include pronouns into the same class as nouns, as in I love you. I and you are what we call deictic. Okay. Why do I call them deictic? Because they vary according to context. I love you said by me to my girlfriend refer to two people in the world. I love you said by Hanaja to her boyfriend refer to two different other people. So they acquire meaning in context. But we put together into the class of nouns, we put together the pronouns. Okay, so you start seeing the differences in approach. They are very subtle. Okay, they are very small differences, but I'd say that this approach I'm presenting to you is a bit more academic like. Okay, like treating um, treating determinatives as determinatives and not as articles, for example, and putting together nouns and pronouns. Now we have the coordinators. Of course, we have the coordinators when we have two coordinated clauses. Okay, when I have coordinated clauses, when there's a difference between coordination and subordination. In her approach in the video, she treats coordinators and subordinators as conjunctions. As we know, conjunctions operate to link ideas, to put two ideas together in a same sentence. Now, this putting of ideas together can be either coordination or subordination, depending on if the sentence in one of the sides has meaning on its own or not. Now, take a look at we saw Kim and Pat. This and it's like we saw Kim, we saw Pat. We saw Kim and Pat. And is a coordinator because both sentences have a meaning. We saw Kim. There's meaning on its own. We saw Pat. There's a meaning on its own. We saw Kim and Pat. Coordination. Hurry up. Sorry, hurry. Hurry means on its own, like hurry. It's a non-canonic clause because it's an imperative, but I can understand it. Hurry. Or will be late. Will be late has a meaning on its own as well. When I put or, I establish a relationship of coordination. Or in the next example, it's cheap but good. It's cheap, it's good. Okay, I have independent meaning in both clauses. In the clause, it's cheap, there is enough meaning for understanding. In the clause, it's good, I still have a meaning on its own. So I have to link them. It's cheap, but it's good. Could be another coordinator. It's cheap and it's good. Okay, so this is the class of coordinators and, or, but, however, and so on. Okay. Now the next class, any questions up to now? Is this okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, so the next one is the class of adverbs. Now let's understand what the word adverb means. Ad means by the side of the verb. Okay, like to describe the mode, to describe manner, to describe intensity, to describe how actions are performed. Okay, so she spoke clearly. The verb to speak in the simple past, clearly is restricting the meaning of the verb to speak, is telling us how this action of speaking was performed. She spoke clearly, or you're extremely fit. So this extremely describes your way of being fit, your way of being intelligent, or whatever. He works very hard. Here I have intensity. Somebody that works hard works less hard than somebody that works very hard. So The fourth class here is the class of adverbs. If you take a look at my word classes here, you see that most of them fit the definitions in the video. Okay? The prepositions, our sixth word class preposition indicates the position of something. Like it prepares you to find the position. He is in the garden. Or from, it's from your uncle. This letter is from your uncle. In this case, it's indicating position. In this case, it's indicating the origin or the destination. We went to Paris. So, sixth word class, the class of prepositions. Finally, the verb. If you had to give me a definition of the verb, what would you say? How would you define a verb? What is a verb? What does a verb indicate? A verb, basically, it indicates the action, yeah, the performance of some action. Like in he is ill, she left early, or we want to help. And finally, the one that she approached as only one category, the subordinators that she puts together with the coordinators. Some people deal with these two categories altogether as conjunctions, but here I decided to split them. The subordinators are used when I have a relationship in which one of the clauses is not meaningful on its own. I know that it's true. If I tell you I know, basically you will question me, what do you know? We need a complement for that. That it's true. This that helps me put two ideas together. The fact that I know and what I know. Okay? That it's true. Or ask whether it's true. If I tell you ask, you basically ask me, ask what? Ask whether it's true, or ask whether it's true or not. Okay? So these are the 8 parts of speech. Oops. Sorry. These are the 8 parts of speech. And let me just erase this. And how about interjections? She talks about interjections in her video. Well, interjections are also considered a word class, okay, a part of speech. But they are quite simple and we'll not explore them in our course, okay? What are interjections? Like gosh, or do you remember any other interjection? Geez, or oh, okay? So interjections are not to be explored in our course, but they are considered a part of speech, and that's why I call them 9 parts of speech. So in her approach and in my approach, we have two differences. The naming of determinatives that she calls articles, okay? What she calls articles. What she calls articles, I call determinatives, and putting together coordinators and subordinators that we decided to split. These two categories altogether, she calls conjunctions. Okay? Is it understandable for you? Is my message getting to you? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
You
it
can be
doesn't.
coordinated
Yeah.
or subordinated, right?
Sorry?
Subordinated and coordinated.
Yeah, subordinators plus coordinators, it's the same as saying conjunctions. Okay? She decided to treat them as conjunctions. We are just showing that in the class of conjunctions, there are subclasses called coordinators and subordinators. We decide to treat them separately as parts of speech. Okay, it does not mean that she is wrong and that I'm right, nor the opposite, that I'm wrong and she is right. It's just a different approach. It's the same as calling articles as determiners. Determiner is a technically more precise term because it tells us about the function of the articles. The function of the articles is determining the noun or the pronoun. Okay, we basically treat nouns and pronouns as the same word class. Okay, because they play the same function in a sentence. Okay, so every time, as she says, every time you open your mouth to speak, you are using one of these 9 according to my approach, or 8 according to hers, parts of speech. Every word we speak belongs to one of these categories. Okay? Any questions so far? Why are these important? Why are these word classes important, these parts of speech? Because we will only be able to understand clauses if we understand phrases. And phrases are derived, are classified according to the part of speech that is its head, its core. Okay, so if we draw a hierarchy here, let's remember this hierarchy. Oops. Let's remember our hierarchy. We have like we have the words, the morphemes, yeah. The morphemes build words. Words build phrases. And phrases build clauses. And clauses build sentences. Okay? So we are understanding, we are trying to understand words and their ways of being classified into parts of speech so that we can move up to phrases and understand the difference between noun phrase, verb phrase, adjective phrase, and so on, so that we can better understand clauses and sentences. Okay, this is the hierarchy that I'm proposing here. Oops, I want the eraser. I promise I will buy that digitalizer table for next term. I hope, in fact, I hope the pandemic is over and we are back to the classroom. But well, so as I told you, first difference in approach, we take pronouns to be a subclass of nouns, okay, and not a distinctive primary class. Pronouns and nouns are the same. Why is it so? Because every time you have a pronoun, you have a noun being substituted. Every time you have a pronoun, you have a noun being referred back. Okay. Second is that traditional grammars generally take determinatives to be a subclass of adjectives. Normally, traditional grammars approach determinatives as a subclass of adjectives, though some of these grammars recognize a class of articles consisting of the and a only, the definite and the indefinite article. Our determinative class from this perspective is much larger because it contains not just the and a, the definite and indefinite, but also words like some, any, all, each, every, the quantifiers. Okay, so which these are very different from words like those adjectives on our table, okay? Very is not an adjective. Very is an intensity, sorry, every is not an adjective. Every is a quantifier, okay? The same way as each. Each is a quantifier, not an adjective. Although it appears in a sentence at the same place before a noun as an adjective, it's not really an adjective. It is uh, a word class to indicate quantity, like some and any, although they are interpretative, although they are subjective somehow. Uh, I have some friends. Well, how does the dictionary define a some? Like a reasonable number of something. What is a reasonable number of friends for somebody that has 1,000 friends and for somebody that has 10? Okay, it's different. It's contextual. But anyway, it refers to quantity. So that's why we call them quantifiers. And we have coordinator and subordinator as distinct primary classes, whereas traditional grammar has a primary class of conjunctions. So in the video, she's sticking to a more traditional approach of grammar in which we have conjunctions subdivided into coordinating and subordinating conjunctions. We preferred to split them into two different word classes called coordinators and subordinators. Who's right, who's wrong? Nobody. Okay? They are just different approaches. So she has a sentence. Remember, she gave you a sentence like, I'm a VIP of the NAACP. Okay, that's her way to memorize. I give you another hint, and if you would like to create your own sentence, that is okay. The important thing is to have the initials of the word classes in our approach. So this sentence works for our approach, our way of approaching parts of speech. So I created this. NASA discovered a very cold planet where N stands for noun and pronoun. When I say noun, it's understood that pronouns are included in this category, okay? A, the first A, stands for adjective or adverb, if you prefer. We have two A's, adjective and adverb, you choose. S stands for, what is the S? According to our approach. Subordinators, very good. S is the subordinators. The next A stands for, I have adjective, adverbs. The D stands for, I'm asking you because I want you to push from your memory. The D from discovered stands for what? A and the some, all, every.
Determinate.
Yeah, the determiners, okay. The V stands for
Verbs.
verbs. C,
Coordinators.
coordinators. And P, it's something that our students always get confused with.
I don't know.
Let's go back to the table.
Someone said preposition.
Prepositions, very well. Okay, so this is a silly sentence. Its function is only helping you memorize. If you don't like mine, you can create yours. Okay, but the important is that you know these 8 parts of speech. We have an I. If I wanted to include this I in discovered, or I could put an imaginary code, an imaginary planet, I don't know. I could include interjections. But as I said, interjections have a very simple function. They do not belong to the structure of canonical clauses. So they belong to clauses which are not useful in syntactic analysis. They have to be turned into canonical. So we are putting them aside. We know that they exist. We know that interjections are part of speech. So we know that according to our approach of splitting coordinators and subordinators, the word class that she calls conjunctions, is split into two. We derive 9 and not 8 parts of speech, but interjections are too simple to be treated. So just remember they exist, but they are not part of our approach here. Okay. Any questions about this? Does it look reasonable for you?
Yes.
Okay. So every word we speak should belong to one of these groups. Okay. One of these 8, according to her perspective, or 9, according to ours, parts of speech. I'm sticking to grammars which are more, how can I say, the more modern grammars. And when I mean more modern grammars, give me just a minute, I'll get the book for you. It is not that modern. It's the grammar from maybe the 90s, Michael Swan. Okay. Michael Swan deals with 9 parts of speech, 9 word classes. So if you would like to have this book, I don't know if it's available on the internet, like in the pirate websites, but for sure, there is a book of these in the library. Okay, Michael Swan, Practical English Use. It's the book I'm basing my classes on. Okay, so now that we know the parts of speech and we know they are 9, we can start discussing the phrases derived from 6 of these parts of speech. From these 9 parts of speech, the 8 we are approaching plus the interjection. So from these 8 here, 6 of them will derive into phrases. Like the noun will derive a noun phrase. What is a noun phrase? It is a phrase whose head is a noun. The adjective will derive into an adjective phrase. What is an adjective phrase? A phrase whose head is an adjective. The S does not derive a phrase, okay? Because it puts phrases together. In fact, it puts clauses together. The adverb will derive an adverbial phrase. The determiners will derive a determinative phrase. The verb will derive into verb phrase. Coordinator, the same way coordinators and subordinators don't derive phrases. They put clauses together, okay? So the only ones here that do not derive phrases are exactly coordinators and subordinators. Why? Because their function is the function of putting together 2 different clauses. Phrases build clauses, and clauses are or can be put together by either a subordinator or a coordinator. Okay, that's why they don't derive phrases. And a preposition will derive a prepositional phrase. So it's time now to discuss what phrases are. So 6 of the word classes form a corresponding class of phrases whose head belongs to that class. So in the following examples, the phrase is enclosed in brackets and the head underlined. Okay, so I'll present the head of each phrase for you. It's important to know that a type of phrase may happen to be inside another type of phrase. So inside a noun phrase, I can have a determinative phrase. Okay, and that is exactly what we have here in she ate some candy. Okay, uh, So we may have a noun phrase inside a determinative phrase. We may have a noun phrase inside a verb phrase, and so on. We may have phrase inside phrase. Okay? Looks confusing, but we can dissect it and try to understand it better. Take a look here. She ate some candy. Ate some candy is a verb phrase. Do you agree? The verb phrase whose head is the verb to eat. So this is the phrase into green brackets. Okay? When I say she ate some candies, the immediate question is, what did she eat? Eat is the head. Okay? Okay, so she ate some candy. This some candy, she ate some candy. What did she eat? Some candy. She ate candy. Not all the candy, but some. So candy is the head for the second phrase. Let me erase, otherwise there will be lots of confusion. Fica mais confuso que eleição americana. Okay. So some candy into brown brackets. Candy, but not all the candy. Some candy. Some determines candy. I have here a noun phrase, candy, a noun phrase of only one word. And when I say some candy, I have a determinative phrase because some will determine how much candy she ate. You see? So I have a determinative phrase, but inside it, I have a noun phrase. All these inside a verb phrase. It's a bit confusing, but I expect that you will understand this as we develop the topic. We'll first discuss the nature of each kind of phrase. So this is a verb phrase. Okay. The parts of the verb that function as the grammatical verb of an independent or dependent clause. In this case, ate some candy. Is it an independent or a dependent clause? Ate some candy. Is it an independent or a dependent clause?
Dependent.
It's dependent because I need to know who. Yeah. She ate
Yeah.
some candy. People have said that creating a standard for wikis would be a good idea, and many proposals have been made for standardizing various aspects of wikis, but none of them have taken hold. So it's difficult to standardize, okay, the way we split this, okay, into dependent and independent. But anyway, she wrote some letters. Let's take this. She wrote some letters. What kind of phrase is this one? I want you to run the risk of. She wrote some letters. Do you see any phrases inside wrote some letters?
Yes.
What is this? What is the other phrase inside this? Here, maybe I was not clear. This is an example of a verb phrase, okay? Like have said, would be, have been made, have taken, okay? I think I was obscure here. So these are verb phrases, okay? Everything in red here are examples. I should have put an example, okay? These are examples of verb phrases. Even I got myself confused, but okay. As you can see, all these are verb phrases. Now, she wrote some letters. What is this into brackets? And she wrote some letters. What is the kind of phrase of wrote some letters? Noun phrase, verb phrase, determinative phrase, adjective phrase. What is it? What do you think? This is a noun phrase, right? Yes or no?
I'm confused.
Okay, so let's go by parts. Let's try asking questions. She wrote some letters. She did something. Okay, she did something. What did she do? She wrote some letters. You see, in this wrote some letters phrase, wrote is the main element, the main part of speech. Like she, we know that canonical clauses use the subject, verb, and complement structure. She performed an action. Okay, somebody performed an action. So let's analyze this. She wrote some letters. She did something. What did she do? First of all, she wrote some letters. This is the first phrase I have. Whose head is what she did. She did it. What did she do? She wrote some letters. What kind of phrase is this? It's a verb phrase because the head here is the verb to write. Do you agree? Se eu pegar toda a ideia na sentença she wrote some letters, eu tenho que pensar o seguinte, toda phrase, toda clause tem um núcleo verbal. Every clause has a verb. She did it. What did she do? She wrote some letters. Então, a primeira grande frase que eu tenho aqui, o primeiro grande grupo frasal é wrote some letters. She wrote some letters. Wrote some letters. The head of this is wrote. Okay? So I have she wrote some letters as a verb phrase. Dentro dessa verb phrase, tem outras phrases. O que é phrase? É word plus word operating together in a hierarchical relationship. She wrote some letters. Tem mais alguma phrase aí dentro?
Like some words. Oh, yeah, some words, not letters, some letters.
Some letters. She wrote. What did she write? She wrote some letters. What kind of phrase is this? Some letters. What is more important here? Letters or some?
Letters.
Well, she wrote letters. How many? You see, some is more important. In the hierarchical relationship between some and letters, some is important because it's saying not any letters, not only one letter, not a lot of letters, but some. In fact, the head here is the sum. This is sum is a determiner. So this is a determinative phrase. But inside this determinative phrase, I have letters that on its own is a noun phrase. A loucura tá aqui. Vamos lá. Dentro da verb phrase, wrote some letters, eu tenho uma frase menor, some letters. Some letters, not all the letters, just some. Some é mais importante nesse conjunto some letters. Portanto, eu tenho aqui uma determinative phrase. Mas dentro do conjunto some letters, eu tenho letters, que opera como noun phrase. Ok? Anyway, next one. He is still in London. What kind of phrase is this? Tá meio óbvio, porque já tá grifado. He is something. What is he? He is still in London. Where is he? He is still in London. So, is still in London is a verb phrase. Oops. This is a verb phrase. Is still in London. Is there any other phrase inside it? He is still in London. Tem mais frase aí dentro? Ou is still in London é a unidade mínima indivisível?
The preposition
Seu áudio
in.
cortou, mas eu entendi. The preposition in London. He is still. Where is he still? He's still in London. And then I have a prepositional phrase. E dentro de in London, tem mais divisão? Where is he? In London.
The noun.
The noun London. That in relation to this prepositional phrase is a phrase which is a noun phrase. Então vamos lá. O que a gente aprende disso? Uma phrase pode ser composta de outras. Um tipo de phrase, como um verb phrase, pode ter dentro dela uma prepositional phrase, que pode ter dentro dela uma noun phrase. Cada palavrinha dessa, cada classe de palavra é um phrase, ok? Desde que ela tenha sentido por si, ok? Por que o still não está aqui? O still está a serviço do is. He is still. Still is an adverb. Still in London could be an adverbial phrase, okay? But next one. So, an adverb phrase, for example, is a word group with an adverb as its head. This adverb may be accompanied by modifiers or qualifiers. So let's take a look at the adverb phrase. We have seen that the verb phrase, okay? Let me just erase. Não vou complicar por enquanto, vou ficar só na primeira phrase que a gente usa, tá? Que a gente acha. No caso aqui, vamos dar a abordagem aqui de modo a achar a primeira. She wrote some letters. Trata isso aqui como verb phrase. He is still in London. The head is verb phrase. Now, as I said, the adverb phrase, the head is an adverb. This adverb can be modified, qualified, quantified, okay? So let's see. We'll see that an adverb phrase can modify a verb. It can modify an adjective or another adverb. And it can appear in a number of different positions in a sentence. Adverbs can appear in different positions in a sentence, like I spoke too soon. Okay, too is an adverb. I spoke in a certain way. Which way? Too soon. Too is an adverb of that's too much. He is too silent. What is to? To indicates what? Place, intensity, opposition. What does to mean? What is the function of to in I spoke too soon? Para que eu uso esse to? The same way as so. What is its function? Adverb of what? Of intensity, isn't it? To is used for
That's right.
intensity. It's extraordinarily good. Okay, extraordinarily is an adverb. Extraordinarily good. I'm sorry, just correct this. The adverb phrase is here. Extraordinarily good is an adverb phrase. Okay. The prepositional phrase, it's easy to know that the head of a prepositional phrase, of course, is a preposition, a phrase made up of a preposition and the phrase or clause that acts as its object, the object of a preposition. They are in the garden. In the garden is a prepositional phrase. Okay, they are there. He wrote a book on sharks. He wrote a book on the French Revolution or about the French Revolution. Um, the famous example, everybody makes a joke of it. The book is on the table. On the table is a prepositional phrase. Okay. Inside this prepositional phrase on the table, you have the table, which is a noun phrase. Okay. Uh, maybe Hanaja traveled to Ireland. To Ireland is a prepositional phrase too. Okay. Any questions about this? Is that clear? Ficou claro que dentro de frases temos outras frases, que elas vão se agrupando hierarquicamente. Que eu chamar uma coisa de noun phrase não quer dizer que ali dentro tenha outras subfrases, cujo núcleo é outra classe de palavra. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So we have the determinative phrase, whose head is a determiner. Now, give me examples of determiners. Do you remember what determiners are?
No.
The terminers. The terminers. What is the word class of the?
No, I understand the meaning,
Article.
but
Yeah,
I
one
don't
of the
remember.
articles, for example, the, a, and,
Art.
some,
Mhm.
okay? The terminers will determine the noun. Yes. Who was going to say something?
I don't know.
Yeah, I heard somebody was trying to say something, but anyway. So a determiner is what determine, or if you prefer, restricts the meaning of a noun. It gives a degree of specificity. So a determinative phrase is a phrase whose head is a determiner, like in I saw almost every card. So almost every card. Here, almost every card. Card is the head of almost every card, which is a noun phrase. But inside it, I have almost every, which is a determinative phrase. You see? This. Deixa eu usar cores aqui. I saw something, okay? When I can say I saw something, something here is a noun phrase in purple. But inside, okay, the head of this noun phrase is card. But inside this noun phrase, almost every will give the idea that it's a restricted number of cards. So almost every, the head is almost, and this is a determiner. So this is a determinative phrase. Inside the noun phrase, almost every card, I have the determinative phrase, almost every. We have very, very little money left. The same thing. Very little, okay, is a determinative phrase, okay, where we have this, very little money, where money is the head of the noun phrase, very little money. But when I say very little, I have the eraser here, just a moment. I have very little as a determinative phrase. Whose head? I'm sorry about this. Whose head? Vou só fazer uma correção aqui. Acho que parou a transmissão, né, da tela. There's something wrong here. Vou fazer uma correção rapidinho. Eu ia grifar uma coisa, grifei outra.
Okay.
Again, I'll present window. In which very little is. Se bem que é isso mesmo, é little. Very é advérbio. É isso mesmo, very little, sorry. Vocês vão falar agora, o professor foi pego na própria confusão. Pronto. Little que é o determinative. Tá certo. Very é advérbio. Okay, do you see the slides again? So little is a determiner. Very is an adverb. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was very, the head, but the head is little. Little money. Okay, very little money. In which very little restricts the meaning of money. And little is the head of this determinative phrase. And so on. Adjective phrase, the head is an adjective. A phrase like this, it's getting rather late, or syntax is kind of tricky. Yes, it is kind of tricky. Okay, so a phrase whose head is an adjective, and this adjective may be accompanied by modifiers, determiners, and or qualifiers. It's getting rather late. Rather is a modifier for late, but late is the head of the adjective phrase rather late. Syntax is kind of tricky. Kind of is a modifier for tricky. Not very tricky, but kind of tricky. Okay, so when I mean modifiers, I mean these things that come before the adjective and take away part of its force. Okay, like makes it more euphemic. And the noun phrase, which I consider one of the most important ones, okay, for us in syntactic analysis, because every subject of the sentence is a noun phrase, okay? Every object of the sentence is also a noun phrase. And for us, it's very important to distinguish subject, predicates, and objects, So subject and objects will always be noun phrases. Is a word group with a noun as its head. The simplest noun phrase consists of a single noun. Okay, a single noun is a noun phrase. The noun head can be accompanied by modifiers like the, and, some, determiners, such as her, which is a possessive adjective, and or complements. The noun phrase most commonly functions as a subject, object, or complement in a sentence. And that's why it's so important. I'd say that if you had to understand one of these phrases, the most important one to comprehend is the noun phrase, because it will work as either the subject or the object in a sentence. The new lodger is here. The new lodger is the subject of the sentence. The new lodger is a noun phrase whose head is lodger. The boss wants to see you. Here we have two noun phrases. A noun phrasing the boss that happens to be the subject of the sentence. Wants to see you. Here I have you as the direct object of the sentence. You is a noun. In fact, it's a pronoun, but we decided to include nouns and pronouns into the same group. And you is a noun phrase, which happens to be the direct object of this whole sentence. The boss wants to see you. Is that clear for you? The function of the noun phrase as either subject or object? Take this example. The boss wants to see you. I have the subject and the predicate. The subject, the boss. All the rest here is a predicate. This predicate is composed of a verb phrase. The boss wants to see you. Wants to see you, the head is wants, and I have a verb phrase. But you is a noun phrase inside a verb phrase that operates as the object of his wanting to see someone. So let's go a little bit back to the structure of canonical clauses to understand the importance of phrases, to understand the clauses. As we know, clauses are built up of phrases. So let's understand the structure of the canonical clause. Basically, it's made up of a subject and a predicate. Basically, then, a noun phrase and a verb phrase. Like in the students got ready for the test. I have the subject, the students in green, and the predicate got ready for the test. The same happens with my paper was approved for publication. What you have here is a noun phrase, both in the students and my paper. I have a noun phrase, and in got ready for the test or was approved for publication, I have a verb phrase. Now, how can we analyze it? Take a look at this sentence. It was obvious that he was lying. How can you analyze this? Where is the subject of this sentence? It was obvious that she was lying. Where is the subject in it was obvious that she was lying? Do I have a canonical clause here? Or first question, how many clauses do I have there?
2.
Oh, two.
2.
Where is it?
Mm.
Where would you split this sentence?
It was obvious.
It was
Okay.
And he was lying.
Sentence 1, it was obvious.
And the other, he was lying.
Very good. The other one, he was lying.
he was
What do I do with the that? What do I call it? What kind of relationship do I have between it was obvious and he was lying? Do I have a meaning on its own? It was obvious? Or do I have to ask something?
no.
It was obvious. What was obvious?
Yes, you have to ask.
What was obvious? It was obvious that he was lying. So do I have coordination or
I
subordination
think
here? What is the relationship between clause 1 and clause 2? What is the relationship between this one and this one? Coordination or subordination? If one of them is a dependent clause, I have what? I have
Subordinate.
yes. Okay, that he was lying. Okay. And is that he was lying subordinated to it was obvious or the other way around? Which is the most important clause? Which is the independent clause and which is the subordinate one? We should do something with this that. Where does it go? In the first or in the second part?
The second.
In the second part.
Second.
The subordinator must fit one of the clauses, okay? I know that this has independent meaning. He was lying, okay? This is a verb phrase. We discuss this later. But that he was lying is clause 2. And this is clause 1. Now let me ask you, it was obvious. Is this canonical or non-canonical? Subject, verb, object. Subject, verb, complement. It was obvious. Canonical or non-canonical?
Canonical.
But that he was lying.
Non-canonical.
Non-canonical. So what do we have to do now? We have to turn that he was lying into canonical. Okay, how do we do this? We just drop the that. We know that he was lying. Is it canonical now? He was lying?
Yes.
And we know that it equals he was lying. Okay, so let's see the analytic approach for this. So you answered me the question. So that he was lying was obvious is a subordinate clause as the subject. In this case, I have a subordinate clause. Let's go back to our analysis. We analyzed this and we discussed that this relationship, because of the that, is a relationship of subordination of clause 2 in relation to clause 1. Temos acordo aqui? Temos uma subordinação dessa clause 2 em azul a essa em verde, ok? Então, o que eu tenho, na verdade, é uma ordem inversa da canônica, né, em que toda essa verb phrase aqui, that he was lying, funciona como sujeito de uma oração numa ordem mais canônica. That he was lying nas óbvios. Professor, mas ninguém fala assim, ninguém começa a frase com that. Verdade. Chama isso aqui de it. Não foi isso que a gente discutiu um pouquinho antes? Que it era igual a he was lying? Então, se eu chamar he was lying de it, eu tenho de novo de volta a clause 1. It was obvious. Muito nó na cabeça? Ou deu para pegar o raciocínio? De novo. Primeira coisa, temos que entender a relação que nós temos entre as duas clauses. Vocês me passaram o seguinte, divide aqui. Eu não posso deixar o that fora. Ou eu ponho o that para a direita ou para a esquerda. Né? It was obvious. Uma dessas aqui é a cláusula independente. The independent clause, clause 1. The second one is the dependent clause. Clause 2. We decided that the relationship is of subordination because we have a subordinator here. Clause 2 is subordinate. Ok? Até aqui tudo bem?
Sim.
Só que nós temos um problema. Um dos lados é não canônico. Esse aqui... Vamos lá. Aqui. Clause 1 is canonical. Ok, maravilha. Clause 2 is non-canonical. E aí, o que eu faço? Eu tenho que entender como mudar essa clause 2 para que ela se torne canônica. Uma das formas de fazer isso é só eliminar. Canonical clauses are non-coordinate, non-subordinate, they shouldn't be negative, and so on. Eu identifico o que torna ela não canônica e elimino. E adapto. Não basta só eliminar, mas eu tenho que adaptar. No caso aqui, eliminar e adaptar, vai funcionar mais ou menos como a mesma coisa. Eu elimino that. Quando eu fiz isso, eu tenho he was lying, que é canônico. Acontece que he was lying se equivale ao it. That was obvious. It was obvious that he was lying. What was obvious? It. What was obvious? It. It what? He was lying. So now I have that it from clause 1, the it from clause 1, it was obvious, equals to the canonical clause 2 in its canonic version. Certo? É isso que me leva a trazer de volta agora o that. Agora eu posso trazer o that de volta, só para inverter a ordem e dizer that he was obvious, porque it é igual a clause 2, então it é igual a that he was lying, was obvious. Ou se eu quiser, he was lying was obvious. E aí eu sei que eu tenho um período subordinado. Então, it é igual a clause 2. It, that he was lying. Ok? Ficou claro por que it é igual a clause 2 e que a forma de tornar essa sentença numa estrutura analisável sintaticamente é essa, de inverter that he was lying was obvious? Claro que é não gramatical. Não se começa um período, né, com uma conjunção, né? Isso aqui é ungrammatical, but it's analyzable. Okay? So just drop the that because it's not necessary. E chama a parte em vermelho de it. E agora? That he was lying was obvious. Eu tenho que he was lying é o sujeito dessa oração canônica. He was lying, né? O sujeito está aqui dentro dessa noun phrase. Was obvious, ok? The subject is the topic that we are going to discuss by next class, okay? We are going to discuss the difference between the subject, the predicate, the predicators, and so on, ok? Gente, está muito confuso para vocês? Já, deixa eu só parar a gravação de aula. Vocês estão conseguindo pegar o espírito da coisa? Para hoje, o importante seria entender os parts of speech, ok? E entender a função de cada phrase. Entender também que cada uma dessas phrases possui subphrases dentro delas. Isso tá claro, gente? Peraí, deixa eu ver.
A maioria sim, acho que eu só preciso pegar esse da subphrase. Pegar melhor.
Yes.
Tá. Eu vou tentar trazer mais exemplos com phrases, tá? Pra gente tá pegando melhor isso aí. Basicamente, toda phrase, uma phrase é um grupo de uma palavra, no caso do noun phrase, ele pode ser só uma palavra, né? Com função dentro de outra phrase, até que elas formem uma clause. O que é uma clause? É uma phrase cujo verbo faz parte daquilo, demarca uma ação. Duas clauses colocadas juntas podem estar numa relação de coordenação ou de subordinação, né? E aí elas vão formar uma sentence, ok? A gente vai trabalhar com mais exercícios, eu vou tentar trazer mais exercícios para identificação de phrases, tá? Para a próxima aula, para que a gente possa estender esse conhecimento, tá bom? Para dar uma clarificada melhor. Tá certo? Opa, tô com a câmera desligada aqui. Certinho, gente? Alguma dúvida quanto a isso? Deixa eu ver o chat. Era sobre a gravação. Tá certo. Alguma dúvida?
Professor,
Sim. Se eu vou botar
teve
o quê,
momentos que
perdão? Se eu vou botar o quê? Cortou
a
a...
internet caiu.
Ah, sim, não, tá gravando porque foi solicitado, né, pelo colega e eu tô gravando aqui, tá bom? Eu vou colocar no CGA já, tá? Mais alguma coisa, gente? Tranquilo? Vamos tomar café da manhã, então?
Não, só isso.
Tá, tranquilo, professor. Tudo bem.
Valeu, então, gente.
Tchau, professor. Next
Na aula
week.
seguinte, a gente trabalha com a noção de sujeito e predicado. Eu volto um pouquinho na questão dos phrases, tá bom?
Tá bom, professor. Tá
Um
ok.
abraço, gente. Tchau,
Um
tchau.
abraço. Bom dia, professor.
Bom dia.
Tchau.